Hey YouTube and people and viewers. So we are going through a lot as a couple. Hugo had called Children's Services on us. The escalation between our fighting has constantly been, it's just an attack against each other. Oh, I'm going to do this against you. I'm going to do this against you. I'm going to do this against you. And it's just been fighting after fighting after fighting. A lot has to do with my mom, her situation from gambling and online romance scam and, the disbelief. And then Hugo having his heart set that my mom is supposed to be this person to help us and cannot understand she has an addiction and that you can't just rely on somebody like that. You have to do things yourselves as a couple. So he called Children's Services. They took Hope. They said they were going to take her. This was in February. They were going to take her, bring her back on Tuesday, only for a couple days. It's only supposed to be for like 4 days. Never brought her back. Every meeting that we've had has never been about Hope. It's never been about how we're going to transition Hope home. When I say that me and Hugo need counseling to manage our conversations so we can learn to talk to each other and learn to communicate with each other, I was told, oh, wait, don't do that. But you do what's supposed to be important for the children, and the parents are supposed to be important for the children. And in order to get the children the supports that they need and get the family everything that they need, in order for the children to succeed, you need the parents to succeed. And if you don't help the parents, you're not going to help get success. So it's been like almost 3 weeks, and I haven't seen my daughter. It was supposed to be 4 days. I've seen her once in the whole process, and this is how Children's Services work. As soon as when they were taking her, they're like, oh, it's only till Tuesday. We promise it's only till Tuesday. And I said, looked at him and I'm like, Tim, it's not until Tuesday. It's not until Tuesday. You're taking my kids away. And a lot of this had to do with Hugo panicking and snapping because I had been planning to leave because of all the fighting. And then he started snapping and started getting paranoid and, and it started a fight. All of a sudden we had an alignment and we're literally two people against each other, two very strong, opinionated, strong, smart-minded people against each other. So he says he has no problems calling Children's Services, and this is what he made a threat before, because if he calls Children's Services, he has all the rights to see Hope whenever he wants, so he is not worried about that, and he knows she's being looked after. So he doesn't really care, because he knows me and my sister are fighting and arguing, because he told me, your sister's using you. That's all she does. Your sister and everybody's just using you. Don't talk to her no more. Don't trust her no more. Don't. And then he's the one talking to her this whole time. And I lose my children. Because we're fighting. Yes, we are fighting. And it has been getting like physical everything because the tempers are escalating. But everybody's like, oh, it's you. You're yelling. You're yelling. You're yelling. You're yelling. But nobody's looking at the bigger picture of all of this. This family needed help for 15 years. This family has been struggling. This family has been suffering. This family has been going through massive trauma just from the Stollery Hospital alone, just from the U of A alone. When I got my gallbladder taken out, I had serious pain. I was in pain for 15 hours, serious pain. And I had this doctor come up to me. My daughter was upstairs in respite, and he's like, are you sure you're not making all this up? I said, when my fiance comes back, you better not be here. So he wasn't when my diagnosis came. I had tons of gallstones in my bladder, or in my gallstone, and I needed surgery. So, no, I wasn't making it up. When I had my brain bleed, oh, you're a hypochondriac. Stop crying, stop yelling, stop screaming. You're being a hypochondriac. This is at the Grey Nuns. I had 2 nurses stand in the hallway, tell me, mock me, because I'm being a hypochondriac, and it's just a simple migraine, and on and on and on. It turned out it was a brain bleed. This is how our hospitals run on a regular basis, whether you're a child or an adult. And we've been advocating about this for so many years, that these are huge issues in the hospital. The lack of care, the lack of attention, the lack and ability for a nurse to see what she is trained to do and mock someone. You put on your scrubs, you get your diploma, and it's not, and a lot of people, it's like, because it's a paycheck. It's not a paycheck. You're dealing with someone's family. You're dealing with life. Just like my daughter Anna, take her to the Stollery Hospital. Oh, when she starts having blue around her lips, bring her back, and we'll put a BiPAP on her, and bring her back when her lips start turning blue and she starts struggling to breathe. And what do? They fight me on it, and then they put on my charts, we don't know why mom was angry. And my daughter never got a BiPAP. And then the next day, so I travel all the way back up north, 5 hours back up north with my fragile child. And the next day she crashes. And I had to get her flying back to the hospital. But in my chart, what they wrote in the hospital, and I believe her name was Carol, and she was the one that did a lot of that charting, and wrote in there that we don't know why mom is upset. But this person has the ability to step up and make a change because she was there and speak up and said, look, I was intimidated. I lied. This mom was fighting for a BiPAP. All it takes is for somebody to be honest. But it doesn't happen in our society because they'll lose their license, they'll lose their job, their reputation. But my charting does not say mom drove 5 hours so her daughter can get the BiPAP that she needed because she was showing signs of struggling and need of support. That was not charted in there. That's how I walked into the door of the Stollery Hospital. No support. There was parents there. There's all these supports and education, and I never got any of it when I walked in the door with my daughter for spinal muscular atrophy type 1. Then my son got diagnosed with Williams syndrome, and do you think anybody sat down and talked to us about what Williams syndrome was? No. I had no idea that it had issues with hearts. But if somebody educated me with that, I would have known more. So would Hugo. We would have been more on the ball. But we weren't transferred the information properly. My son got sick from a viral pneumonia and died from one, and it attacked his heart, whether he had complex needs or not. I recognize the symptoms, and when you look at his photos, you can see him deteriorate. You can see him get pale in the photos. You can see he's sick. I got called a hypochondriac, paranoid, I'm going to get locked up, mentally insane. My son died. No justice has ever been done, and Hugo doesn't want to do any justice because he has respect for the doctor. But then I find out this other story from this other mom. Kept bringing her child in, kept bringing her child in, kept bringing her child in. I think she's constipated. I think it's something else. I don't think it's respiratory. I think something else is going on. Well, her child passes away. They do an autopsy, and her stomach just explodes as they open it up. Everything just ruptured instantly. Again, another mom not listened to. And has to live with the trauma, plus all the other traumas that she has from her past. Another mom, 18 years of trauma. My only question is why do these moms suffer in the trauma and not say anything? Not stand up for themselves, not advocate and say, look, this has been trauma. For me, for other moms, this is not right. What the hospital does to people and how they intimidate and how they deem them down and how they just play with your mentality when they do not want you to be a part of their world. Genetics. And I noticed it so far, the other 2 moms that I talked to, both genetic. Talk to a heart or cancer mom. Oh my God, they love the world. The great best place they've ever been. Break a leg, great treatment. But if you're genetic, because genetics are a low number. We don't focus on genetics. We don't only focus on heart and cancer. But if you did focus on genetics, genetics would open up a huge world that we have never seen before. And I'm sure the governments don't want us to open up. Because that would mean that we would have to save lives. I mean, we advocated, and I know that there's a cure for spinal muscular atrophy. I could feel it. I could feel there's something, a treatment or a cure, because it doesn't make sense. It is so not simple to cure, but I mean probably the easiest to cure out of anything, diabetes and everything. Not focus on that, but there's a treatment now. 3 or 4 years ago, we got treatments for SMA. No, you're never going to see one. You're never going to have one. We're never going to have one because you have to advocate for that. You have to speak out for that. You have to fight for that. You have to let people know that this exists so that this can happen. Spinal muscular atrophy type 1 is its number 1 genetic killer in infants. A lot of people have kids that die from SIDS and they don't even know why. Perhaps it's spinal muscular atrophy because it goes untested quite often and now becoming more recognized. When people and staff come to work in my home, I would expect them to do work too and give me the quality that I give them a paycheck and a job for. They needed a job. I gave them a job, but I'm not getting the adequate out of it. And then he goes yelling at me. We're fighting because we're not getting anything met at the house. We're not getting anything met that I need done. And I'm getting far behind. I need staff to give their 100%. And they didn't. And it came down on me. I'm not functioning. I'm not running the staff right. I'm not getting this. How come I haven't talked to them? How come they're not in? How come the hours? How come they're late? How come they're sleeping in their truck for 2 hours and claiming those hours? All came down on me. Now I've lost my daughter, my youngest daughter, Hope, and she was born after Caleb, and she was named Hope for a reason. She was supposed to be back at Tuesday and was told Tuesday. So here Children's Services is like, yes, you're coming back on Tuesday. And then they just change everything. Oh, your daughter said this, your daughter said this, your daughter said this. Well, it's easy to say that my mom is mentally sick when everybody's telling her that's all I am. Your mom is just mentally sick. Your mom is mentally ill. Your mom, and all these people are telling her things. So of course she's floating around excited and tiny and young and, oh, this is all new. So I'm going to, but nobody asks her the right questions of the events. Let's talk to mom and see what happened during this event or what happened during that event. Why is mom yelling? Why is mom screaming? Why is mom verbally abusive? Because at 6 or 7 and 8 in the morning, what time is it? And if I go, if I slightly go, it's a fight. Everything I do, everything I say is wrong. I'm pathetic. Nobody cares about me. That's why people don't like me. It's constant all day long. There's never, Lisa, you're doing really good. You did good today. Go for a walk. Take a breather. How about you have a rest? How about you go for a retreat this weekend instead of me going hunting? Because I'm always going hunting. How about we take the family on a vacation? Because we've never done that. Instead of going hunting. Let's plan a big, huge family vacation. And we spiraled. The pressure of finances became very heavy on Hugo when we got the house. There was no help. I had no income, and I've been trying to get my income. And I felt the stress and the pressures and saying, like, he needs that extra income, and we need that extra income. And I've been trying to do applications. I get denied my CPP right from the beginning. And it just keeps spiraling. And everything I apply for gets either denied or takes forever or it gets lost and I have to redo it. And eventually I become depressed. Because I'm exhausted. I just don't want to deal with anything anymore. Paper, people, phone calls, nothing. I just want peace. I want quiet. I want to have normalcy somewhere in my life, and I can't. Nothing normal happens for me. And when I ask for the right help, people just do the things that hurt the most. Oh, we're more focused on the children. Okay, are you focused on the children? Because you haven't been for 15 years. Because my son died from a viral pneumonia and I was told I was a hypochondriac. My daughter sat in the hospital for 14 hours with a fractured leg while they were deeming me mentally insane. Buckle fracture and 2 split fractures, sorry. And it was constant like that. I kept telling Hugo, look what's happening. And he didn't believe me. I said, as soon as you leave the door, Lindsay starts nitpicking at me instantly. The long-haired that looks at her wedding magazine all the time, doesn't focus on it. And every time we come back from a break, Anna's frothing with huge amounts of secretion coming out of her mouth and looking at Lindsay like, hello? You're supposed to be helping me take care of me, but you're staring at your wedding magazine. And then you mock my mom when she walks in. You instantly target her. And then you run to the charge nurse and say, oh, Mom's starting up again. Then they call Hugo. Then Hugo comes to the hospital. And it's just a whole gong show again. And then, so Hugo got to a point one day. I sat there and I was like telling him, and he doesn't believe me. We got in these arguments. And I'm sitting on the cot. Anna's bed's here. Nurse is there. And there's the door. And she starts. There she goes. And I'm like, okay, leave me alone kind of thing. And she kept starting, kept going, and wouldn't stop. And when I finally looked up and lifted my head, there was Hugo leaning against the doorway behind her, having a cup of coffee, listening to the whole thing. He couldn't believe it. He could not believe that I was telling the truth. This was literally happening. He witnessed the whole thing, and she had no clue he was behind her. When she found out he was behind her, though, oh, there was a whole new dynamic of world. In my own opinion, I feel like this is what the Stollery's been waiting for. You know, we've been asking for all these helps and the benefit plan, the children's benefit plan. Approved February 9th, denied February 10th. Says we have benefits, we have no benefits. Then we call, then we have to get it activated. Then we try that activation number. That activation number doesn't work. So then they have a whole sheet of paper with all these activation numbers. And then they keep trying. And finally, eventually, I don't know, a week later, it works. My home care is coming down on me because we don't have medications. We don't have this. We don't have that. But they have a whole team of people. Their social worker, amazing person. But my God, she needs to be a therapist, not a social worker. Because she never gets the job done because there's too much talking. And then when we look at the papers, oh, I don't know if we can get this done. And we need this from Hugo and we need that from Hugo. And then I can't get anything done. Because you need two people when you're a partner. You need both your incomes. You need both your applications. You need both your stuff. But Hugo loses almost everything all the time. So then I can never get the work I need done for my children. And I get frustrated. I'm like, look, we're not organized. I like to be organized. I like to have a routine. I like to have things functioning. That's who I am. Hope and Hugo, both ADHD, have different things. You need both parents to be able to apply that sometimes. Hope is very busy. You have to keep her busy. You have to be focused. You have to have friends. You have to have activities. She's struggles with dyslexia. Some things I've been saying since grade 1. I have been talking to the school since grade 1. And now I'm this horrible mom. I'm exhausted. I literally, if you Google search Anna Lohan, put in Anna Lohan and Google search her name into ENNALOHIN into Google search. You'll see I had to fight for oxygen for Anna. I had to fight for oxygen for my daughter, my medical fragile daughter. I had to fight for oxygen. Hugo had to make 2 nurses cry over that. 2 LPNs stood there. I think one was an RN, one was an LPN, and then there was a charge nurse. And the 2 LPNs or whatever were crying, telling Hugo to do something for Anna because he modified the toe probe and made it down. And Anna's dropping, and her saturations are low, and the nurses are literally almost going to pee their pants, like they were literally doing the pee dance. They were crying. They were freaking out. Hugo, do something. Hugo, do something. Hugo, do something. They're LPNs that are working with Anna at the Stollery. Why didn't they do something? Oh my God. No, we have to get approved, guys. You were the ones that said that we don't deserve the oxygen. You were the ones that are giving us trouble. You're the ones that said we don't need this at home. So come join us now. My daughter's dropping. You're crying. You're having anxiety and panic attacks. And she has to be approved for 2 minutes for AADL. She has to show them that she sits below enough to get the oxygen. She has to put her life at risk for AADL. So the nurses cried, went to the charge nurse, said that Hugo wouldn't do anything, and blah, blah, blah. The charge nurse comes back and stands right in his face. Her name is Dion, looks at him in the face and goes, "You're an asshole." Yes, he's an asshole for a lot of the things he does, but got his daughter approved for oxygen that day. I've had to fight for her education rights through a whole school board and everything. And then as I start getting everything, I have Glenrose, Ross that comes through Glenrose and tells me, Anna had an eye gaze before. So the eye gaze calibrates to the eyes and she can correlate and she can write and type and whatever and do everything on the eye gaze. She had one before. It was donated to her. So this guy Ross comes in from Glenrose and he's like, oh, I don't think she's going to get approved from AADL. They're not going to approve her. She can't use that device. I go into depression again. I call Make-A-Wish. I get the device. I don't know how to use it. I don't know how to function with it. Glenrose is supposed to help me with stuff like this. But they put my daughter down. And her abilities. The ability she has that she's able to use. And has used in the past. So I had to go through Make-A-Wish to get an eye gaze. So Anna lost her Make-A-Wish. Her original Make-A-Wish was to meet Roman Atwood or someone like Selena Gomez or go on a family vacation. Those were her Make-A-Wishes. She likes pink too. Our house has gone into foreclosure. We're starting to pack. We have no idea where any of us are going to go, who's going to take the kids, what's going to happen. Children's Services is obviously not there to make it work so that the family can grow together. They just, when I went in, I got a total interrogation. When Hugo went in, he got 2 hours of their time. I got interrogated badly, and it was horrible. It was all about FSCD hours. It wasn't even about this meeting. I was going prepared because they said, we're going to talk about hope. We're going to see what makes work so that we can get hope home and all that stuff. It's just lies. Our social systems lie. The services neglect what is important in families. They just target, that's it. They make a statement, they make a case, they build a case, and I'm going to fight this case all the way through, and I'm going to literally publicize everything and every event that starts going on. Everything. At the end of the meeting, Tim was kind enough to tell me, the supervisor, Lisa, you have less than 30 days to find a home for your kids. Well, you're social services, so why don't you have anything, suggestions or advice or people to line us, to help us, set us up in the right direction so that we can have a home for our children and that our family can be reunited and that we can have the right supports and that we can have the right things instead of targeting me and mocking me. Lisa, you don't have a home in 30 days. You're not going to have a home. I have been finding a home. I've been looking for a home. I've been searching every day for a home. I've been reviewing. I've been viewing. I've been trying to get gas. I've been selling things so I can get gas. I have been doing everything, and I cannot have income. I cannot have income support or help until me and Hugo split up. Because yes, it's that much of a situation, and it's been that way. Oh, you can't have help because of Hugo. You can't have this because of Hugo. You can't have this because of Hugo. Families are struggling. My power bill is over $500. Some people's power bill are $800. My gas bill, $300. So then that's almost $1,000 just on power and gas right there. No assistance, no help. One income. Now no income. So, Tuesday comes around, no daughter. Week goes around, no daughter. Another week goes around, no daughter. Lisa, you gotta find a home. Okay, but where's your team that's supposed to be helping support the families? Because that's what you said you do. You make sure that you do the best. You're there for the children and the best interest of the children in their lives. But what comes with the children is the people that they were attached to. The woman that gave birth to that child. I've lost my son due to medical negligence of a doctor. If my son was having seizures, because he told Hugo, oh, your son's having seizures. So Hugo and I got in this big fight. I slept in Caleb's room that night. If he was having seizures and he was complex, then he should have been admitted. So where do we go from all of this situation? Been telling everybody Hope's dyslexic. I need help. I need supports. I take her to Kuman, get her tested. 2 months later, the school calls me. Oh, we think Hope needs some serious help with her schooling. Oh, but I've only been asking for 6 years. I'm being ignored in all those 6 years and trying to think, do I switch schools? No, I'm going to see this outcome to the end because they're affecting my child's education. I have been asking, and I should have trust in this school. Every school system should be on the ball for every child. ADHD children should not be labeled. There should be an education program actually for how you teach children with ADHD because my son had ADHD, and when we started getting him the right supports, right helps, and people started understanding, looking at the workbooks, having him work with the workbooks, things like that, there was a change. And this child made honorable mentions. And this child made a life of himself. But without the village, you're a wolf in the pack. And you may be a lone wolf. And if you're a lone wolf, you get attacked constantly. So, my child's supposed to be back Tuesday, and I told him, I said, you know what? She's not going to be back Tuesday because this is how you guys work. You guys do not do what's best for the interest of the child or the family or anyone. You just take away, make a case, make a statement, interrogate the parents, trash them, and that's what happened to me. But when Hugo went in, completely different. 2 hours, they listened, barely talked to him, barely said anything, didn't interrogate him the way I got interrogated, but I got interrogated. I got interrogated badly about FSCD hours. But there was nothing that benefited Hope in that whole subject, pretty much. Nothing. really didn't benefit the topics that we were supposed to get onto, to get home, to have my child back home, because I think I've suffered enough. I've had a daughter diagnosed with a terminal illness. I've had shit run childhood. I was survived a lot as a child. Then we have Caleb. Williams syndrome, hydrocephalus, dies from a viral pneumonia. I'm a hypochondriac, and that's all everybody. And nobody can say, Lisa, I can't believe that happened. Everybody, because they praise this doctor. Praise him. I mean, he's a Donald Trump to the U.S. But his wrongdoing of actions was turned on me because I'm a hypochondriac, I'm paranoid, I'm this, I'm that, I'm not. Just labels kept going instead of the doctor saying, no, I made an error. Publicly saying, I made an error. This mom's not crazy. Her son was sick and she kept bringing him in. Most of the physicians say that they won't stand up or speak up for things in the hospitals. And it's true, because I look at what I went through in the Manoir de Lac when I worked there. And as I brought the policies to my charge nurse brought up a lot of the stuff that needed to be revamped and is wrong in the facility. And boom, she lost her job. She's gone, transferred somewhere else. And if she disputed it, gag order. I know, I had a small conversation with her and I couldn't believe what was coming out of her mouth. That Alberta Health Services placed on her. Manoir de Lac. Now, if you actually do the research and go through the history, you'll see that it was a privatized facility. Eventually, we brought in union, and we unionized it as a team. And then it was owned back to Zenick, and then all of a sudden, Alberta Health Services snooped in there and poof, took it over. Why? Why is that private facility the one that ended up having Alberta Health Services take it over? Because people spoke up. People spoke up and walked the dock. People made attention to the awareness. But it wasn't until COVID that people started realizing that senior care is really flawed. One day, I'm 44 years old. 20 years, less than 20 years to be a senior. Our children grow up, teenagers, we don't think, we're all taught, oh, you got to help yourself. So we go off and we just help ourselves. We're not taught that we are the generation to help take care of our seniors, to help take care of those who are sick or weak, and to be there in aid. That it takes a village to raise a child. We're forgetting these terms because we're telling everybody you got to think for yourself, you got to work for yourself, you got to just do for yourself. Yourself. So everybody is their self. I can't help you because of this. I can't help you because of this. I can't come near you because of this. I can't deal with your traumas. I have to deal with my traumas. I can barely deal with them myself, but I have to. And people tell me, I can't deal with them. Okay, well then a cup of coffee would be nice. Maybe just a friend would be nice. You can't deal with my traumas. I can't deal with them either. But it's better for everybody to be like, she's suicidal, she's this, she's that. So she gets worse because she doesn't have supports anywhere. Doesn't have her dad to help her. Doesn't have her mom to help. I mean, my mom can help me somewhat, but not very much. My sister and I don't talk. She's helping Hugo. Hugo got what he wanted. Hope at my sister's. Like he said, she goes to her sister's. It's not going to bother him because he can go see her anytime. That's good because it does something to me mentally. And I feel like all these people just target me. And instead of trying to say, this mom's been wanting to go for a vacation. This mom's been asking for rest because she's been in a house for 15 years. Every day other than surgery. Or when she was sick in the hospital. The one night overnight in Jasper. In 15 years, can you imagine never having anything different? Just in your home every day, day after day for 15 years. And go on one holiday, one overnight Christmas party. But you don't really get time for you. You don't get time to regroup. You don't get time to grieve. You don't get time to breathe. When my son died, my daughter was upstairs in the stollery, so I had to run upstairs, me and Hugo, do her care. Go home for a little bit, grieve. But when I got home, the bassinet was right there. It was just a disaster. other than the daisies being in my yard. My yard was full of daisies for some. The first year, the day that Kayla passed away, it was just full of white daisies. It never happened again. And then this little black and white butterfly started following this pattern, and every morning, and I'd sit outside and watch it and meet it every morning, and I felt peace with it. But I don't feel peace with the system and the way that they treated me or my family and what we've been through for 15 years, the traumas, the neglect of my daughter's care, them losing a needle, an HIV needle. Right beside my daughter was an HIV baby. And I watched them start looking for something, and then slowly the charge nurse comes in, and all these nurses start coming around, and everybody's trying to keep quiet in this panic. And are you sure this baby's HIV? Yeah, I'm sure this baby's HIV positive. And I'm going, oh. So Hugo comes because I was monitoring Anna. And Belly's having attitude this morning. She sounds mean, but she doesn't like, she's like Chelsea. She's getting older. She's an older dog too. Doesn't like the other dogs coming near her anymore. So anyways, they lost this HIV needle. They're looking for it. And I says to Hugo, he comes in because he'd gone for coffee somewhere, right? And he comes in and he's like, what's going on? And I tell him, and I said, you know what? In 92 days, mark to the calendar this date, because that's when they're going to come and test her. And he's like, no way. Like, no. So I put this piece of paper in my purse that had my blood work from when I was pregnant, my last part of my pregnancy there, clearing me from all my STDs, all this stuff and everything. And sure enough, the date comes, they send the associate. So the associate female comes in. We have to do testing because an RT got splashed in the eye with a circuit. Oh, really? Because this is exactly the amount of days that you guys lost, an HIV needle from, that you would need to test somebody. She went up. The other doctor comes in. And I'm like, turned around, went into my purse, grabbed this piece of paper, with all my blood work on it, bring it over to the doctor. He grabs the piece of paper with both sides of his hands and he starts shaking. And he's like, where did you get this? No, my other doctor always gave me my blood work results. Explain them to me. Wow. So, anything happens to my daughter, there's going to be hell. Just the fact that we had to go through that was insane. And that's just one episode. I know this nurse who had a stepson in the hospital, same room as me, ice room. She's all the way up north. Her husband and her all the way up north, her boyfriend, whatever. And his son has a terminal illness. And he starts turning blue. And I told the nurses he's turning blue because he's right across from Anna. And the nurse come over, grabbed him by the collar of his shirt, picked him up and slammed him down on the bed. Picked him up and slammed him down on the bed again. Like literally in a sitting position, and slam him on the bed. And she kept slamming him, and his head boom and boom. I was mortified. I literally went home in tears. And I told her what happened, and yeah, whatever, okay. No, it was not funny. That was not how you take care of a code or somebody turning blue. You pick them up and slam them into the bed. Pick them up and slam them into the bed. Anyway, she lost her job eventually because I did put a complaint in. But it was like the parents didn't even care either that this happened. And this isn't just their son. There are people that really care, and I see, like, if there's a child that is in for medical adoption and needs glasses, they will come together and buy glasses for that child. But the medical negligence, when they start picking on a family or target a family, everybody in the stollery starts coming together, and that's it. That's all that it becomes, is this trend of let's target these people, and that's it. It doesn't, the true stories and the true charting never happens as it logistically happened. Let's go back into 2008 when I brought Anna back in July and they charted, we don't know why mom is mad. Let's go back to those. I purchased those charts and I actually read them, and we could not believe what was written in them. I was angry because my daughter was supposed to get a BiPAP mask, put on a BiPAP, have supports, so she wouldn't have gotten to the points that she did. And then when she got to those pressures, they were fighting me on, inadequate pressures that weren't working for her. So they were doing lots of damage and harm to her. Instead of calling Dr. Bach and other people who are familiar with spinal muscular atrophy, or the other doctors who are around the world like they say they do. No. They told me how much it costs her per day, but the other child beside, they wouldn't even touch. If they touched that, they would have the whole reserve on their ass. And they knew it. And I said, I don't see you putting pressure on that family. Their daughter is not mentally there like my daughter is. They both are laying in bed. She's contracted. She's not. She's in mind. She's not. But you will ball me because you saw my mental health charts before I walked in the door. You saw I committed suicide at 15. You ripped apart. And that's what they do. Because when I looked and listened to other people, they tell me the first thing that has been ripped apart was the other person's medical file. And then they start targeting the other parent on that. Wow. The one mom I talked to, her husband had some sort of history on his chart, and boom, she was not stopped target. She was targeted because of his mental health. Not making it the best interest to help this mom succeed. And this mom is suffering through traumas. Had a miscarriage, doing D&C, goes back home, starts not feeling well, goes to the bathroom, baby bone in her hand. Next child has complications. When she says it's constipated, she's ignored. And even the RT, when she came to my home, she's like, oh, that mom. Like disgusted. Oh, and you didn't do anything to make a change, but you can look at people in disgust and make a label, but you cannot be part of a change for someone who cares about their child. This person puts their child in beauty pageants, and yes, has flaws just like any other person, is not perfect because they went through shit. And when you sat there and listened to the story and see the trauma on her face, wow. And she has to live the rest of her life with trauma due mostly to the way she was treated. Sound familiar? But you're crazy. You're crazy. Sit there scrapbooking beside your daughter, and all of a sudden the two security guards show up with a social worker. Oh, you got to come downstairs with us and be escorted down, or we're going to escort you down. I thought mental health was a volunteer thing, not an enforced thing. Anyways, I got evaluated, got diagnosed for PTSD, so that was the good thing that I got out of the whole situation from that. And 2 psychiatrists were crying and said, I'm sorry we did this to you. And the other one couldn't even look me in the face, and he said, I'm sorry. He had his back turned, and he couldn't even look me in the face. I had been evaluated by 3 psychiatrists. They're like, you have post-traumatic stress syndrome. And I'm like, what is that? It sounds like it's me. Finally, I had a diagnosis because my sister is running around telling everybody I'm bipolar and schizophrenic. If you look at PTSD, they have similar symptoms like that. And it has to be treated. Not labeled with different labels all over the place to different people. It needs recognition that you need to support someone and you need to be there in their therapy to understand it instead of running around telling everybody what you think for their therapy. My sister's running around telling everybody, and Hugo told me not to trust my sister, not to talk to my sister. And yet had a plan this whole time. I'm going to throw hope to my sisters. He called Children's Services. Because he's like, oh, you're not getting help and you don't know what to do. I'm not getting help because I don't have a partner who's helping me. Who just blames my mom for everything. Tells everybody, oh, she was supposed to pay $30,000 income from her income when we got the house. No, the agreement was she was supposed to live rent free. And there was a piece of paper saying that she would help with the part of the down payment, which is like $1,500 or something like that, or $2,000. And that she was supposed to be able to, just help with groceries here and there and live for free. Then she moved out. And then he convinced her to move back in. And I kept saying, no, she's not moving back in. When she moved back in, the agreement was she was supposed to give $1,000 a month to help with groceries, rent, all that stuff, so that we could succeed, because it was too much on our shoulders to support her too. We didn't have the finances. We needed extra income. We needed another income, and we just could never get there. I could never get that other income. I tried to do paralegal. I tried handing out phone books. I've tried going to, worked for ParaMed. I've tried working at home. I've tried so many things, and I just fail at all of them. My family needs me so much that it was so much dependent on me that, and then like even now when Hugo and I talk about everything, the only thing he talked about was him and Hope going away for 2 months, and that he made, don't get mad about the legal thing. Nobody talks about what's going to be the best interest for Enna, what activities Enna needs, what therapies does Enna need, what can we do for Enna. It's all hope, 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 hope. And I get it because, Enna has a disability, but she's being left out, always from her 3 siblings, always left out. Everybody, she's just left out everywhere we go because nobody wants to take the real time for a real person. Enna is probably the most patient person I've ever seen in my entire life. Smiles every day, sings, happy, bubbly. Of course, she's worried about what's going to happen to our home and our family right now. We're all worried, which is why we also started a GoFundMe, because it is so hard right now. So we do have a GoFundMe. I'm going to put the link in the description below. Likes, subscribers, anything that can help would be gracious to us, because I know we're sinking, but we're still swimming. And my YouTube channel is at over 400 viewers or subscribers now, 436. So I want to keep building this village. I want to keep building this team, and I want to be able to advocate for the rights of families, for the rights of myself, for the rights of what our governments are doing wrong. And I can tell you this because I've been a child in child abuse surviving. I've come through that. I've come through a lot, and I've seen a lot, and I've seen a lot of why our systems fail and why depression becomes increasingly hard. Parents are never going to get better. Nobody's going to ever heal because we're just going to take away. We're going to point fingers and deem, and we're never going to heal anyone. The system's set up to, if you really can find your way and navigate it with someone's help, then you're going to be okay. But you need help in this because the system's so much paperwork, so much stuff, so many applications, so many things. You need that help. And I haven't had that. So that's where we're at. I haven't had the right support. They're like, oh, we've given you all the supports we can offer you. No, you haven't. What you did is you made a mess and you made it look like I'm crazy, and that's all. You didn't help me. You didn't support me. And when I got tackled by 6 security guards because somebody else was arguing about my phone, and they call security, that person leaves, and we know that he had to leave because he would have been tackled. So next alternative was me. Turn around, security guards there, and you can see they were that's what they had no care to do anything else. They just had it in their heads, I'm going to tackle her. We're going to just tackle her, inject her, and that's it. That's how they run. They don't run with proper protocols or strategies. Or, okay, this person is claustrophobic. She's been, abused. She's been attacked. Let's back up. Let's give her space. Let's see how she works. No, none of that was done. We're going to inject you with something, but I have medical issues. We're going to inject you with something. And they slammed my head, which had a brain bleed right here. No pressure, no impacts, nothing, but they slammed my head into the bed. And I get injected with a medication. I have no clue to this day what they injected me with. That's how the system runs. They didn't even check my file, talk to my neurologist, talk to my family doctor before they did all that. Not whatsoever. And then she turned around, put me on volunteer, and then explains to me after they put me on volunteer that my appeal is now canceled and denied because I'm now on Volunteer Act.
After I reached the manager of the unit, after 15 minutes, I've been in the building.
Yeah, and he was trying to reach the manager, and he reached the manager after 15 minutes of being in the building, right outside her door, waiting for her, calling her. And she was not impressed that Hugo actually recorded their conversation.
She still wondered how I find the number as quick.
And she wanted to find out how he found the number, but we do know people there. But anyways, it was crazy. It was like totally insane that we went through that. And had to go through that. And the proper, right from the time I walked in the door, let's just take this suicidal woman, depressive woman's phone away. Let's just leave her hanging with no family, no friends, no one to talk to. Just us here at the hospital who haven't even looked at her file and just see her as crazy. Right off the bat, they listen to Hugo. They don't even listen to me. So how am I supposed to feel trust in our system? Go back to the hospital because I'm suicidal. Please fill out my 10-4s. No, released 4 hours later because I'm a liability to that hospital. And I told the police I'm a liability to them. I was released right after 4 hours because they told me I have all the supports I need. It's not true. I should have been admitted. I should have been an automatic admission for 30 days. But I'm a liability. Anyways, guys, it's one step at a time. One day at a time. And I am not going to back down on the system and what they've done with my family. What even, Hugo himself, it's like, yes, there's a lot of flaws, but himself, he's just tired of the system and wants the system to be fixed. And then he says he'll go for therapy. When people start stepping up and start speaking out on what they have done wrong or recognized wrong, he said that he will go to counseling and he will go to therapy, but we just need people to start being honest for once. Because we're the only ones speaking up on these situations. And no, I went to patient relations and they were ready to take my case, but I was not ready because this is so much trauma to go through. And when I was finally ready to start speaking up, the patient relations that I could speak with was gone, that was taking my case, that was really eager to take my case. And I end up getting home care. I put a complaint in against their management, and their management got to pick and select who we get from patient management. And I said, no, I don't want that person because this person's ignorant, only siding on your side, not listening to both sides of the story. This person, you can tell, is very one-sided. I want someone else from patient relations. I want the one that I was working with before someone else. No, we got refused. Stops there. You're not allowed to refuse somebody. If we ask for a different person, we're not supposed to be refused. It's supposed to be an equivalent situation, but it wasn't. So Pam from patient relations, I don't want you. I want a different patient relations person. Not somebody who sides with Katie. Because Katie is dirty. From home care management. And we'll start by the staff discrimination next time.